Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier comes out with this statement of his that he thinks that PlayStation will reduce its porting efforts of its games to PC. A few critical errors I see going on with his hypothesis, and it's not the fact that he made it a hypothesis, because the way he words it, he gives himself mea culpa. He says he thinks, he senses, so he can always claim that that was just his raw opinion on the matter. But some are running with the fantasy-filled vision of this whole thing and don't realize that whatever claims they may, in a sense, be making out of this, or whatever position they may want to solidify with this, seems to be contrary to what PlayStation executives have told us, or at least what they told their investors in June of last year. So June of last year, 3 PlayStation executives, one other that was asking the investor questions, sat together in a fireside chat, which apparently was pre-recorded, and they were able to go ahead and deliver predetermined answers to predetermined questions from investors. What they said about how they're going to handle their games off the PlayStation console is very important to be able to weigh Jason Schreier or whoever is a reporter, weigh their statements and their ideas against it. That's one piece of the whole thing. The second piece of the whole thing is the PlayStation Coalition for the longest time laid claim that games going on Steam was different, and it didn't necessarily have a negative impact on their ecosystem like Xbox's own impact of putting their games on PlayStation, which is interesting because if it didn't really have an impact, why the celebration and why the joy? It had an impact. It had an impact on the status that majority of the most verbose, the most ardent, loud PlayStation exclusivists, right, enjoyed. Their status that they enjoyed was impacted because no longer could they sit there and lord a video game over everybody else. The better versions of those games were on PC and are on PC. And this really irked the status-driven moniker of these folk. So again, they've put themselves in another pretzel from all of this. First of all, running in, in a contrary direction to what the PlayStation executives seem to have indicated, or at least have indicated. And number 2, twisting a pretzel, pretty much exposing the fact that they were pretending all this while making fun of Xbox for being a multi-platform publisher, while PlayStation themselves was a multi-platform publisher, but they tried to somewhat, in a sense, repress this in some memory bank out there. But now that they see, oh, well, this might no longer be a thing, they want to jump in front of it. Well, it's not allowed. That's just one piece of the puzzle. But how about we go ahead and look at where PlayStation is going and where they've been coming from with this whole thing? I think it'll give a lot of, clarity to their business strategy. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I remember PlayStation's most ardent talking heads claiming that PlayStation never shifted strategy. Do you remember? Oh, you forgot. Oh, you forgot. Oh. They said that their PlayStation strategy never fundamentally changed. They said so. They said that, PlayStation had already launched games on PC in the past, and with a wave of hand, they waived 30 games on Steam. Did you hear me? I said they waived 30 games on Steam after Hermen Hulst already said that just because one AAA game was coming to PC didn't mean that every other game was going to go to PC. And he said, we don't have plans for day and date PC releases. We remain 100% committed to dedicated hardware. But then they changed and said, you know what? Live service games are going to be day and date. Then they changed, and then those games started making their way to PC in droves. Then, while they were at it, they reduced their investment in single player games compared to live service games. Look at this gamesindustry.biz note. Sony pouring $2.16 billion into R&D for live service games and extended reality. 40% of this spending for the current fiscal year is assigned to growing the PlayStation business. When you look at the expansion over here on this paragraph, it says Sony will tap into the resources of the 9 game studios outside Japan that it has acquired or invested in over the last 2 years to boost its work on extended reality development. Then, this paragraph says the company aims to dedicate 55% of PlayStation 5 game development spending to live service games in the current fiscal year, ramping it up to 60% for the following year, which is, they announced basically that it was going to be the year ending March, fiscal year ending March 2026. So PlayStation has previously announced it was investing heavily in live service games, filling a gap in its portfolio. Since then, they've closed a bunch of studios. Or I guess I would say since then, we've heard of studio closures after this announcement was made in 2023, right? They've reduced, or I guess we heard that they reduced the number of live service games that they were making, but they're still making live service games. They've greenlit a number of live service games. And from the fireside chat, we heard that Hermen Hulst told everybody that their single player games was going to come at a cadence of at least one a year. So again, let me bring everybody back to where we need to be so that we can see and listen with our own ears how this whole thing is progressing. So when we get to Jason Schreier's hypothesis, you can make up your mind where you think PlayStation is going to go based on what PlayStation executives have actually told the public. Let's hear it.
So for the studio business, I would say that we're focused on quality, on timely delivery, engagement, and profitability. Of course, ongoing monetization as well. So back to those pillars I was talking about in single player, we're focused on consistently delivering at least one tentpole title per year, the right time in the year, at the right quality level, which have players come to expect from PlayStation Studios.
So when we throw around the talk of, you're only getting one single player game, at least tentpole, I'm being tongue-in-cheek. I know from time to time I get all goofy, but I like to follow exactly what we're seeing from the company from different directives. Keep in mind, this is from 2023, July, and this is from June. Was it July? Yeah, no, June of 2025. Right after this, by the way, in July, Helldivers 2 was announced for Xbox. Keep listening.
In live services, we're focused on building a recurring base of enduring live service titles that drive ongoing engagement and monetization as achieved by our releases to date. And then finally, we'll continue to grow our franchises through a very thoughtful release cadence and as transmedia properties.
Thoughtful release cadence. So, already existing properties, which you and I know are these games that exist on PlayStation, delayed staggered releases, which we've been seeing, and all of a sudden from 2020, the song changed and 30 games. This is not 3 games. This is 30 that were on that have made their way to PC, with not just one, but 2 more coming within the next few months, as the PlayStation Coalition continues to give all of these extra caveats. Oh, it's a second-party studio. Kojima owns the IP. It's not going to be this. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just watching going, oh, you got to be kidding me. You can give whatever caveats you want to. Did I say 2? I'm sorry. 3. Did I say 3? I'm sorry. 4. Oh, it's a second-party game. You don't see what's going on? You don't see what's going on? You don't see that an IP holder can actually pretty much allow for PlayStation to use their IP to make a PlayStation game like Marvel did with Spider-Man? I mean, are you not seeing what's going on? That this is an effort for PlayStation to be able to latch onto games by using external talent, as Xbox did the same with Ninja Gaiden 4. Ninja Gaiden 4 is not an Xbox IP. No, it's not. However, Ninja Gaiden 4 is an Xbox game. And so this little discrepancy, which is made up because we are capable of complex understanding of studio dynamics and publisher-studio interactions and business, is what a lot of these folk want to use to go ahead and jump out of the reality that, ladies and gentlemen, this whole exclusivity thing, the ship has sailed. These guys will literally get to a point where they will probably not make many single-player games and just keep making live service games. At that point, you're waiting for a tentpole title that they're probably going to be like, you'll get it when you get it. Why? Because the single-player games, hard to sell. Live service game, easy to write off as write it off as a tax loss. Because you could just delist the game and you could close the studio and all that. Single-player games, on the other hand, they just, expensive, monetization is low, all of the above. Keep listening if you want to keep going.
You expect to increase operating income amount and margin percentage in fiscal year 2025 compared with fiscal year 2024. But can you further grow them in fiscal 2026? And if so, how do you intend to do so?
Listen, this is the person who drives financial policy in PlayStation, not anybody else.
So, starting by, the PlayStation business is in a very good position and has a very strong momentum. We expect to continue this momentum and remain optimistic about fiscal year 26 and beyond. So in particular, as we approach the second half of the MRP period, we expect an even higher level of our revenue to be from content and services, which will improve the overall profitability of the business. Our roadmap of first-party titles and the high expectations we have for the third-party titles will directly drive the business' natural operating leverage. Additionally, as we are focused on growing the PS Plus business profitably, continuing to drive subscriber growth in our premium and extra tiers. And finally, we expect the ongoing focus on operational excellence to translate into a positive impact on profitability.
Do you know why studios are closing? Operational excellence. Hiroki Totoki gave a mandate that PlayStation needed to pursue operational excellence, reduce waste. Basically, what people are yelling at Amy Hood for in the Microsoft side is the same thing that resulted in. That's what you got to see when they were running. The operational excellence is about to operate excellence itself these next few months. I mean, you really got to pay attention to what's being said here, and you need to pay attention to what that might translate to. Operational excellence means we're going to spend our dollars tight. When the whole Blue Point thing was going around, what was the first thing that y'all heard? Well, they didn't meet internal goals. Operational excellence says you go. Pay very close attention.
So overall, we remain committed to contributing meaningfully to Sony Group's MRP target of operating profit CAGR of 10% or more and cumulative operating profit margin of 10% or more.
How do you expect the financial profile of your business to evolve over the long term?
So again,
the financial profile of your business to evolve over the long term. Let me see if I can translate. How do you intend to make more money? How do you intend to increase your revenue streams?
Fundamentals are strong, and we expect this to continue across many key areas. First, strong sales growth driven by highly engaged and multi-generation MEU. And then an increase in the PS Plus, we spoke about that, increase in PS Plus revenue due to the shift to the higher tier and also our price revision. And then on the first-party live services, becoming more consistent, predictable, and growing revenue stream.
Yes.
And also with the continued strength and reliable delivery of our tentpole titles, incremental revenue also generated by going off console with our first-party IP.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? So I remember I was having this conversation today with somebody who's on the Xbox side who, says, oh, for sure, right? This indicates that Xbox or, PlayStation will be moving away from exclusivity, and Xbox ought to pretty much start considering this. And do you know what I said? I said, who should I listen to? Jason Schreier or Linazar of PlayStation. And if you're wondering who Linazar is, this is Linazar. Who should I listen to? I think I'll listen to what the PlayStation executives are saying in this regard. Now, if they've changed their strategy, they'll let us know. Until then, I can only go with the official, the official memo. And you can't blame me for going with the official memo. Why? Because, sorry to say, Twitter, your job's not on the line to perform for PlayStation. Yeah, I can understand. Maybe you say it makes you feel a certain way if your platform has exclusive games or whatever, but your enjoyment of the game is not, especially if you've already bought into the platform, your enjoyment of the game is not affected. You want more people to buy into your platform? Why? Why do you want more people to move into your neighborhood? What's the pull that you want them to make that move? There's so many things that we can ask and say. It just seems like a lot of this is coming from the perspective where the status is a little bit more important than anything else. And I think this is actually driving gaming into the ground. This is my opinion on this. These companies aren't willing to innovate, and they continue to pretty much just do some of the most, low effort things. Bribe another developer who's already making a game to lock the game away from your competitor, Crimson Desert, which their developers said no to. That's not innovation when you do that. You're not innovating anything. But anyways, I digress. Let's keep watching and seeing how they go ahead and run their business. That's a really short change. Imagine from June and then by March, they're changing their minds. And I'm not even talking about the hirings. I'm not talking about the job postings and all the other things. Thanks for watching the video. Talk to me in the comment section. Peace out.